I've been looking forward to recording this video, having a laid-back discussion about West Ham's January transfer window and catching up with you guys in the comments and seeing what you think. But the reason I think I'm looking forward to it is I feel quite strongly about how I feel in regards to it. But I think there's 5 big contributing factors that feed into how someone would feel about the business West Ham did or didn't do, depending on your stance. That is hope, expectation, the season so far and to come, transfer rumours, and then lastly, sort of the long-term plan at West Ham. But we're going to go through all 5 factors and why I think it feeds into it, and I'm going to discuss those individually and collectively. And at the end of the video, we're going to have a little bit of fun, but it's going to make sense, I promise you. We're going to look back at previous January transfer windows, but it does feed in to reason number 5 for myself. But if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. And if you think you're subscribed, just double check while you're here, and also drop a like on the video as well by clicking thumbs up. We can get 1,000 likes. That would be good. We're going to start with reason number 3, which is transfer rumours, because as I've been reading comments on this channel over the previous few days, there's been a couple of people that said it was frustrating to only get Evan Ferguson because we'd made numerous bids for numerous different players. And I can't subscribe to that frustration because I don't believe them. I don't believe 95% of transfer rumours. I dismiss them. I don't believe them. Some of them don't even make sense. And I think some of them are, I'm going to say, clearly made up. And the perfect example for the January transfer window was Jean-Claire Todibo. There was rumours throughout the entire month, right up until deadline day, that Juventus want him and he could be going to Juventus. Now, let's just say we bought him in the summer. It's a bit of a lazy link, but it's one that's easy to make given we know how much Juve wanted Todibo in the summer. And let's be fair, Todibo wanted Juventus because of European football on offer. It sort of makes sense. But the bit they're missing is the fact that he's on loan to us. We can't sell Todibo because he's not our player to sell. We can't loan Todibo for those reasons, but also Nice can't sell or loan him because we've got an obligation to buy. There's a contract in place which states we must sign him for €40 million in the summer. That is there. It's in place. He will become a permanent transfer in the summer. Everything's agreed. It was done last summer. So it's not West Ham's player. It's a bit of a weird one. It's not really up to West Ham or Nice as to what they can do with Todibo. We're both a bit stuck. Sure, there's possibly a way of a mutual agreement between the two clubs which would allow Todibo to go, but that's not going to happen. So when I saw those transfer rumours, they're just made up. But my point is, some people will believe a lot of transfer rumours, and you know what? They could be true. I will never ever say what is true and what isn't, because ironically the truth is, I don't know. I strongly believe you should believe what you want. It depends on what you read and who you believe, but make your own minds up based on your own evidence, your own opinions. And I do just that. So I don't believe many transfer rumours. I believe we wanted Silva. I believe we wanted Brobby. I believe we wanted Evan Ferguson. But I'm not too sure I believe we wanted Pepe. I did initially, but then I thought about it and I changed my mind off the back of the evidence that followed. I'm not so sure I believe we bid for Pepe in the end. There's other transfer rumours come up. I dismiss it. We move on to the next one. So frustration because of those bids, it's not applicable to me. But I think the biggest 2 factors is how you're feeling coming into the January transfer window. Hope and expectation. Sometimes it goes hand in hand, and it kind of did for me, really. I hoped we would get in a striker on loan to see us through till the end of the season, and then folk who got injured, and I really hoped we'd get one. But at the start of January, that was my hope. We'd get a striker and a centre-back. That's the 2 positions I was hoping we would bring in. We got one of them. My expectations was that we'd bring in a striker on loan and we'd bring in a midfielder on loan. I thought we'd loan a midfielder. We didn't. Now, there is obviously the James Ward-Prowse factor. So technically, we've got one midfielder more than we had in February compared to January. We just took our own player back, that's all. So expectations for me were met. Hopes were met. Now, there is a little bit of a twist to my hopes, which was remember, entering January transfer window, that was my hopes. They changed in the middle when Graham Potter and Kyle McCauley arrived, and those new hopes become, well, I mean, you could argue that I was hoping Lopetegui would get sacked, and he got sacked, so big tick there. But when they came into the club, my hopes were if they could identify someone long-term they want at West Ham and get him now, great, go get them. So that's when we were linked to someone like Krupi or the Dutch midfielder Banzuni. I thought, well, these are Potter and Macaulay's identified targets that they think could be at West Ham in 2-3 years' time. I hope we get them in this window. But if they're not, like Brian Brobby, it's a short-term fix, don't do it. That was my hopes. So that's why, generally, I'm pretty pleased with the outcome of the transfer window. And then we've got what to play for and long term. They sort of feed into each other. But before we get into them, this video is sponsored by Surfshark. If January transfer window might be over, it doesn't mean you can't make any new additions to your life though. And one of those additions could be a VPN. Why would you want a VPN? Is to help keep your device protected. Hackers are smart these days. Not saying that you will definitely get hacked if you don't have a VPN. I'm not saying that, okay? Please, I'm not saying it. It's an additional layer of security. Your password is security. The pin on your phone is security. Face recognition is security. Not connecting to public Wi-Fi is a level of security that you implement. A VPN is another layer of security on top of those things. It makes it a little bit more difficult for people if they want to get into your device. But I'll be very honest with you. I don't know all the nuts and bolts of online security when it comes to using a VPN. I signed up to it initially for other things. I signed up to it so that I could change my geolocation if I was to go abroad. If I went to Spain, I thought, I want to watch content that's available in the UK as normal. I can go on my device, I can change it to the UK, and ta-da, there we go. I can access Sky Sports, YouTube, as I normally would back in the UK. It's my favourite thing about it. And we've got an offer for you if you use our link by going to surfshark.com/HammersChat. You will get 4 months free. Plus, as part of their package, you've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if in 4 weeks' time you've had it and you think, actually, I don't like this, I don't want this, I don't need this, you can get a full refund just like that. Plus, one account, unlimited devices. So I'm recording on my computer, my phone's here, my iPad's over there. They've all got Surfshark on them, but I've only got one account in order to protect all the devices. Links in the description below, surfshark.com/HammersChat. Right, reasons 4 and 5. Playing for long term. We're going to twist it round because the fun is the playing for. Coming into the January transfer window, I didn't think we'd get relegated. We sat Lopetegui, Potter came in. After a couple of games, I was convinced we're not getting relegated. Now, not everybody agrees with me. I've seen in the last couple of days saying we might be in a relegation battle. We could be. I don't believe we will be. Leicester City, they've got 17 points from 24 games so far. They're sitting 18, 10 points behind us. And then we're 10 points behind Aston Villa. I don't think we'll catch Villa either. But let's go with the Leicester City one for now. For those that think we might get relegated. 17 points in 24 games. 10 points behind us. So we win 2 games. And one of them is not against Leicester City. It's one of the other ones, right? So we beat Ipswich and Southampton in the remaining 14 fixtures. And we lose 12. Leicester now need to get 16 points. Assuming they beat us on goal difference. They need to get 16 points to catch us. They'd have to get 16 points from 14 games. I just can't see it. They've got 17 from 24. They look crap. I've got absolutely no concerns about relegation, and I've got absolutely no hope of getting European football. I'm not saying we won't finish 15th, 16th, maybe even 17th. We might do. We might also finish 13th or 12th, but I don't think we'll finish 8th, and I don't think we'll finish 18th. I feel quite confident in both of those assumptions. So because I don't think we've got anything to play for, I don't feel like we should be spending the money in this window. I'd rather Graham Potter had a good old look at the players he's got available and he decides the future so that come the end of May, season finishes, he knows who he wants out the door and he knows what he needs to get in the door and we can get to work. I was hoping that was the plan under Tim Steidten previously. Was not the plan. Looking back, I don't feel confident that we went into transfer windows knowing who we wanted and what we wanted. I don't feel like that. Benefit of hindsight, of course, but 2 years ago the window signed Kudus and Alvarez. I remember sitting there thinking, hang on, I think we're short of a striker here. We need a striker. We didn't have one. The last transfer window, I thought we did all right, but you still felt we were lacking in certain areas of the squad, and it didn't feel cohesive. It didn't feel like we were bringing in. It didn't feel like every player we brought in would fit with Lopetegui, and with the benefit of hindsight, I feel like that was a correct assumption. So therefore, we must have been ill prepared then. So I'm hoping we can remove that this time round. And I think one of the biggest ways to hinder that is to spend your summer budget in January. And I think that's what we would have been doing. So I'm pleased we've kept the powder dry. Potter has a good look. And anyway, if we were to bring in a defender and I got my wish, it would any chance of Casey playing first team football would be removed. If we brought in a left-sided player, Scarl's development would be hindered. Bringing a central midfielder, it's Lewis Horford's. You get my point. There's repercussions to every transfer that you make coming into the team. Certain players miss out. And I'd rather Potter evaluates what he's got available moving forward, because I strongly don't think we've got anything to play for this season in regards to big prize or disaster, which is relegation of European football. Sure, there's money up for grabs. You know, we could finish 10th. We could get an additional 8-10 million in prize money compared to where we are now. But generally, not much up for it. And when I say nothing to play for, that's what I'm referring to. It's not like I've written the season off, as in I'm not looking forward to it. I am actually quite looking forward to the Brentford game. My excitement now comes from hopefully seeing the academy players getting blooded, seeing good football, seeing Potter really get his tactics up and running, seeing where Jared Bowen's going to fit in Potter's plans. That's where I'm getting my excitement for the remainder of the season, not because I think we can get European football. That's gone. And lastly, it's long term. I'm going to force myself to believe something. Whenever someone comes onto this channel, someone ever sends in fan cams or have a guest on or whatever, the only thing I ask for them is to be honest. Anyone that's been a guest on this channel will be able to back me up. I've never once said you can't say that, or you have to say that. Never once have I said that to any of them. I've only ever said, be yourself and be honest. That's it. Just be honest. Whatever your view is. But I'm going to be a little bit fake here and force myself. It's more giving Potter the benefit of the doubt. But in order to do that, I've got to put my opinion of David Sullivan to one side in order to believe Graham Potter. So when West Ham were negotiating with Potter, there was a delay. I think it's fair to say that there was a few days where the club and Potter were in negotiations, and the result was he became our new head coach. And a large part of those rumours were that he was negotiating over transfer budget, but also Macaulay and Steiden. Apparently they were a part of the negotiating process. Evidence post-appointment would suggest that those rumours were true. Steiden's left, Macaulay's been appointed. I see no reason to believe those rumours were false. Evidence would suggest otherwise. So it gives me hope that the rumours that Potter wanted final say on transfers and he wanted to be in charge of the transfer window is true. Graham Potter has spoken in the press conference about how he's in charge, he's slowing things down. And with all those things, I'm going to give everyone at West Ham the benefit of the doubt that that's true and Potter is the one in charge of the summer transfer window. And the reason I'm having to give them the benefit of the doubt is because it's just the David Sullivan factor. I then have to believe Sullivan's hands off, and I can't believe that. That's the bit I'm really struggling with. But if it's true, then I think we've done the right thing in January transfer window, and that Potter and Macaulay will be ready for the summer. Because coming into January, I was worried that Sullivan would make a hash of it, and to some extent, those that are disappointed with the transfer window, I think, would say how they have felt David Sullivan's return to business. I think we have, for those of us that are happy with the January transfer window, like the Duran thing, for example. I think that was, Sullivan's fingerprints all over it. That effort at trying to sign John Duran, or I would suggest it's an effort to make us look ambitious rather than to sign John Duran. But that was Sullivan. That's where you think, oh, just piss off, will you? Now, there's been other reported bids. Like I said, I've changed my mind on the Pepe one. The Krupi one, I don't believe we bidded for Krupi. Nobody said we did. Well, people said we did, but no one reliable, I think, came out and said it. And I don't know, it just feels like wasn't true. or a bid for Kupi. So my point is, long term, I think January transfer window is the best preparation we could have had for the summer transfer window, on the condition Graham Potter and Kyle McCauley can do it their way. Am I confident that that's true? No. Am I willing to give them the benefit of the doubt? Yes. I will be able to judge it whenever the window shuts. 2nd of September, 3rd of September, 31st of August, maybe, like a normal transfer window. Unlikely. Very rarely on the 31st anymore, is it? When that summer transfer window closes, then I will be able to sit back and think, do you know what? I think McCauley and Potter were in charge, or they weren't. I don't know. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because I'm sort of feeling happy. I'm feeling positive about Potter so far. And I'm allowing that to just make me be a bit naive. I will approach the summer transfer window with caution, but with hope. I think January transfer window is good preparation for it. Now, what we're going to do is going to take a look back at the previous January transfer windows because, well, I want to. And I did it on Sunday. So I did the video on Sunday morning. It took me ages to do. There's lots of graphics. Put it up. 2 minutes later, the video was out of date because of Sky Sport. A couple of people watched it and said, you should put this up anyway because of the January transfer window bit. So I'm doing it again before I delete all the graphics I made. So if you don't want it, go now. You won't be too bored. But if you're thinking, what's he on about? Stick around. Let's have a look. So coming into this January transfer window, this was the league table. So this was the league table early January. You can see there, we're 14. Lopetegui's still here. We are 7 points ahead of Ipswich Town. And we are 9 points behind Aston Villa. So that's why I felt coming in January transfer window, probably won't get relegated. And our position's only strengthened since then. But it's the 1st January. This is the 1st January transfer window. We have had nothing to play for since January 2017. In my opinion, of course, you can disagree. 8 years. For the last 8 years, we've come into January transfer window either with European football as a realistic ambition or in a relegation battle and we need to get out of it. So I thought we could have a little look back at the previous January transfer windows, how we came into them. So this was obviously last season. We were obviously in a hunt for European football. 6 came into the 2024 in 6th position, quite a strong position for European football. Not that far ahead of, Bournemouth were 12th, but they were, 6 points behind us. So it was quite close, and obviously we didn't get it in the end. January last year, we signed Calvin Phillips. Now we go back to January 2023. Obviously, we'd go on to win the Conference League this year, but we went into January very much in a relegation battle. 4 wins from 20. And in that January, we signed one person, Danny Ings. Let's go back. There's a quiz question coming up for you. January 2022, look at us, 7th position. 34 points on the board. We'd obviously go on to finish 7th in the league then. But January 2022, and this is where I get frustrated. This is why I can't get angry or upset with this window. Because look where we were 3 years ago. Bang in the race for European football. And we got it in the end. But we signed no one. Not one person. We signed nobody in that January transfer window. And that's a lack of ambition. I think this January, wise. That January, poor. Let's go back to January 2021. This is the January we signed Jesse Lingard. And funny enough, when he came in, we were 6 and we'd gone to finish 6. But we were in a really strong position. Lingard came in and did fantastically well. But I do think, I love the Jesse Lingard signing. I was pro signing Jesse Lingard. Love signing him. You just know how I feel about Jesse Lingard. But I'll tell you what, we didn't have to get lucky, did we? Because we were 6. We were in a look at it. We were really in a really strong position that year. We brought in a Man U player, bang out of form, couldn't get in team on loan. And he went on to do incredibly well. But there's no way we knew he'd go on to do that well. Do you know what I mean? So we look back at that window as a successful one. But I do feel we got a bit lucky with that transfer. We could possibly go make the equivalent. Well, we did. Calvin Phillips last year. We're in the hunt for European football. Bringing Calvin Phillips, he's crap. My point is Lingard could have went that way. He didn't. Let's go back 12 months further. We're now back into January 2020. This was obviously the window that we made 3 signings. So here's your quiz question while I chat away. Which 3 players did we sign? I'll give you the answer in about 10 seconds. But we sacked Manuel Pellegrini in December. So this is 2019-20. Manuel Pellegrini was sacked in December. David Moyes came in. We're in a relegation battle. Pulled us away from the relegation battle, obviously. With the help of 3 January signings of Thomas Soucek, Jared Bowen and Darren Randolph. And one that gets overlooked because of the success of the other 2, but just as important because for at least a couple of games for Fabianski's back, he got Roberto the hell out of goal. 2018-19, Pellegrini's first season. Now, I appreciate you're thinking 11th. We were not in a relegation battle European fight, but if you look at the league table, we're 2 points behind Wolves in 7th. I would argue that we're in European fight contention at this point in the season. I don't think it's wild to suggest that when we're 2 points behind 7th, halfway through the season, we're in a European battle. We didn't do anything. We'd go on to stay there. But that January we brought in Nasri. That's who we brought in. Wonderful. Right. January 2018, so this is now the 17-18 season. Slaven Bilic was sacked in November. David Moyes was now at the club. We're in a relegation battle. We brought in 3 players January 2018. Guess who they are. Pause your video now. Get them in your head. Because I'm going to give you the answer in 2 seconds. The 3 players we brought in was Jordan Hugo, Yao Mario, and Patrice Evra. I'd forgotten about him as well. Probably for the best. But we go back a year ago. We're now in January 2017, first year at the London Stadium, and we're 13th. We're not getting relegated, 8 points ahead of Sunderland, and we ain't getting European football, 8 points behind Everton in 7th. That's the last January I felt that we had nothing to play for. We signed 2 players. You know the drill. Pause it. The 2 players we signed was Robert Snodgrass and Jose Fonte, because obviously Dimitri Payet decided he didn't want to play for West Ham anymore. So there you go. I look back at January transfer windows just for a little bit of fun. But my point was, January 2017 was the last time I felt, going into a transfer window, that we had nothing to play for. Every other season in between, European football, relegation. Pellegrini's season, it's a bit of a stretch because I never felt we'd get European football. But like I said, we were 2 points behind. A bit better investment, we might have capitalised, because throughout all those signings, let's list them. Phillips, Ings, not good. Didn't have signed anyone January 22. Bowen Soucek, great. I think Randolph did his bit. Nasri, not great. Hugo, Patrice Evra, I mean, but Mario was fantastic on loan. And then we had Jose Fonte and Robert Snodgrass, 2 players that they were all right. I think both of them were all right, and that was that. Anyway, there you go. I'm off ski. So, quick summary. I think we've done good business in January by not spending money. I didn't think I'd say that too often. But on the condition, we spend money in the summer, and those 2 are in charge, and David Sullivan is not. Get your thoughts in the comments below. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to Hammer's Chat. Catch you in a bit.